I guess I couldn't believe I was there for the most part. It's like, it all seemed extremely surreal at the time. You know, Doge was a made-up name that had been made up, I don't know, 2 or 3 months before, and based on internet suggestions. And I was going to call it the Government Efficiency Commission, and then someone on the internet said, no, it should be the Department of Government Efficiency, DOG. Like, that sounds great. So we just kind of made up a department. We're a little bit successful. We were somewhat successful. I mean, we stopped a lot of funding for that really just made no sense. That was just entirely wasteful. Where it would, like, for example, there was probably 100, maybe $200 billion worth of zombie payments per year, which simply by enforcing that there be a payment code and an explanation for the payment, that the payment would not go out. So we made that change to the main Treasury computer and a bunch of other computers. It seems like insanely obvious, but there are just, call it 2 or 3% of government payments that go out that really should not be going out, and it's actually quite hard to stop. It's a pretty rare individual that would ask the government to stop sending them money. I mean, the thing is, like, I think instead of doing Doge, I would have basically built, worked on my companies essentially. So, and the cars they wouldn't have been burning the cars.
You gave up a lot to do Doge.
Yeah. Like if you stop money going going for political corruption, they will lash out big time. Mm-hmm. So they really want the money to keep flowing. So if you stop it from flowing, there's like a very strong reaction to stopping the money flowing. Well, I wouldn't say I was super illusioned to begin with. I mean, I guess it's just like you really want the least amount done by government possible. The least amount. I guess maybe like the biggest thing is that, I guess the biggest single thing is that there are massive transfer payments going to illegal immigrants. Like massive. Essentially, we're paying people to come here from somewhere else in vast numbers, including flying them in. So, like, it's not like you need a border wall if you're flying them in. Then fast tracking them to citizenship and making them beholden to government payments, and voting hard left. That's essentially, it's like voter importation. If you create a gigantic money magnet to, you say, if anyone comes here from anywhere else, we're going to pay you tons of money, give you lots of free stuff. Come to America and get paid to do so. Like, you're going to get a lot of people taking up on that offer. When people say like this is fake, I'm like, actually, well, let's look at Ilhan Omar, who was voted into Congress by a large group of people from Somalia who are in Minnesota, which is really far from Somalia, or Mamdani, who was voted to be mayor, but by a majority of people who are not born in America. That's my understanding, at least. And then California is a big time situation. So I don't know. We just don't want to turn into a communist hellhole, basically.
A few years ago, the Biden administration decided to sue SpaceX for failing to hire asylum seekers.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
So we're told on the one side that if we hire anyone who's not a permanent resident, we go to prison. Now we're told if we don't hire asylum seekers, who are not people who've been granted asylum, seekers, they aspire to asylum. They are therefore not a permanent resident. But if we don't hire them, we also go to prison.
Right. Well, the purpose of being damned if you do and damned if you don't is to make damn sure that you're damned.
Correct.
Right. So that's a kind of outcome.
So, I mean, that seemed to be insane and unfair. And why did the Biden administration, because they can only do so many big cases per year. There's a finite number they can do.
Yeah.
Why would the Justice Department, of all the injustices that occur, pick this as one of their biggest cases?
Yeah. Why? Why do you think?
Well, I think they probably had I don't know. There was some lawfare, I think. It was a...
What do you think?
I think it was political.
I think it was the relationship to you.
Well, I don't know all the things, but this is before supporting Trump or anything like that.
Yeah.
In fact, I supported Biden and before that Hillary and before that Obama. So...
Right, that's why I was asking if this comes as a shock.
I don't know if it could just be random. It could be... they didn't tell us, why pick us? Why do such a crazy lawsuit?
Random's a bad. Even if it is random, that's still bad.
It's still bad.
That's just a marker of incompetence. But if it's not random, well, it seems to me highly unlikely to be random.
Yes, and also why attack SpaceX and not say Boeing or Lockheed? I think part of it might be that SpaceX is not unionized, and the Democratic Party in the U.S. is fundamentally controlled by the unions. Mm-hmm. So that I'm speculating here, but since we're not unionized, we're, I think, a very happy workforce, and I'm out there on the factory floor. I don't see if people are happy. It's a good vibe.
Well, they're engaged in something ridiculously exciting.
It's
at
cool.
minimum. Well, that's not nothing. People can go a long ways if they're part of a project that's, aiming at Mars, let's say. That's definitely aiming up. So that's really exciting. That's a real opportunity for people.
Yeah, so my view is that at this point in the United States, the Republican Party is more in line with a meritocracy and with personal freedom. So
I've never had a conservative. Many times with my left-wing friends, let's say, they'd refuse to talk to someone. Oh, me included. Definitely. Because I've invited prominent Democrats to come on my podcast in great numbers for a very long time. And I've got absolutely nowhere with that. They'll talk to me in private. They will not talk to me in public. And so that's never happened.
They're afraid of being shunned.
Absolutely. 100% that's what they're afraid of.
Sure.
Definitely. And they've told me that. It's not a secret. Yeah. But that's never happened on the Republican side. I found it much easier because I've talked to a lot of Democrats and a lot of Republicans. And I found it much, much easier to talk to the Republicans. And that is somewhat of a shock. I wouldn't have necessarily expected that.
Yeah, and I should be clear that it's not like I think the Republican Party is flawless. It certainly isn't. It's got its issues. There are extremists within the Republican Party that I don't agree with. But one has, it's a two-party system, essentially. You got to pick one or the other. And so you weigh the good and the bad. And my opinion is that...
And you flip the coin.
We need that the country would be better off with the Republican administration than a Democrat.
Yeah, well, Trump was pretty good at not having wars.
Yes.
Yeah, which is actually quite a big thing. It's really a big thing. And what he did with the Abraham Accords, That was a miracle, I think.
Right. No,
He
absolutely.
should have got the Nobel Prize for that.
I think there's something to be said that America needs a strong leader, and where you have the perception of strength. Now, you have to admire that Trump, after getting shot, was fist pumping, fight.
Yep.
After being shot.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is not.
He's an ornery bastard. And he's funny too.
Yes, and he's brave. He has courage. This is instinctual courage.
Yeah.
It's not calculated. It's not some arranged event. It's in the moment.
Well, you could see that then, because that was not a time when you're going to
see true courage in the moment.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And if you want a leader who's going to deal with some very, very tough cookies out there, who's going to deal with a Putin or Kim Jong-un or
China.
Yeah, China. Or, they'll think twice about messing with Trump.
Yeah.
They'll think twice.
Okay.
And poor Biden can't make it up the stairs, and obviously he's stepped out of the race. But nobody's going to be intimidated by Biden. It's impossible. I think they will be intimidated by a guy who was fist pumping after getting shot.
Do you believe you're in a matrix though? Like actually believe?
I think you have to just think of these things as probabilities, not certainties.
Mm-hmm.
There's some probability that we're in a simulation.
What percentage would you attribute to that?
Probably pretty high. I would say it's pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one way to think of this is to say, if you look at the advancement of video games, in our lifetime, or at least in my lifetime, it's gone from very simple video games where you've got, like Pong, you've got two rectangles and a square, just batting it back and forth, to photorealistic, real-time games with millions of people playing simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And that's happened just in the span of 50 years. So if that trend continues, video games will be indistinguishable from reality.
Right.
And we're also going to have very intelligent characters, like non-player characters in these video games. Think of how sophisticated the conversations are you can have with an AI today, and that's only going to get more sophisticated. You'll be able to have conversations that are more complex and more sophisticated than almost any human conversation. Maybe any. So then the future, if civilization continues, will be millions, maybe billions of photorealistic, like indistinguishable from reality video games, and with characters in those video games that are very deep, and where the dialogue is not pre-programmed. That's for sure what's going to happen in this level of the simulation, if you could call it. So then what are the odds that we're in base reality, and that this has not happened before? I think most likely, if outside the simulation would be less interesting than in the simulation, because we're most likely a distillation of what's interesting, because that's what we do that's what we do in our reality. And then I do also have a theory, which is like the most interesting outcome is the most likely outcome, as seen by a third party, the gods or god of the simulation. Because when we do simulations, when humans do simulations, we stop those simulations that are not interesting. So like if SpaceX is doing simulations of rocket flights, the boring ones we discard because they're just not, we don't learn anything from those. Or when Tesla is doing simulations for self-driving, Tesla's actually looking for the most interesting corner cases because the normal stuff we already have plenty of data on, driving on a straight road on a sunny day. We don't need more of that. We need like heavy weather conditions on a small windy road with two cars that are, coming at each other with a almost head-on collision. We need like weird stuff, basically, interesting stuff. So I think that from a Darwinian perspective, the simulations most likely to survive are going to be the ones that are the most interesting simulations, which therefore means that the most interesting outcome is the most likely. One of the things Spinoza was saying is that you can have morals in the absolute. You don't need to have morals to be handed to you. It's like the question is, can morality exist outside of a religious context? And Spinoza was arguing that it can. But I think there's good things in all religions that are good principles. You can sort of read any religious text and say, okay, this is a good principle. This is going to lead to a better society, most likely. In Christianity, sort of love thy neighbor as thyself, which is have empathy for fellow human beings, is a good one, I think, for good society. Basically, just consider the feelings of others and treat other people as you would like to be treated. Well, overall, I think the world is pretty great right now. I mean, it's anyone who thinks that like today's world is not that great, I think they're not going to be excellent students of history, because if you read a lot of history, you're like, wow, there's a lot of misery back then. It used to be that people would be dropping dead of the plague all the time. Par for the course. Yeah. Just be like a good year back in the day would be like not that many people died of the plague or starvation or being killed by another tribe. It's like that was a good year. We only lost 10% of the population.